too much success with all their insightful views. Do you grow yourself or buy from the top shelf? Are you here to take the reins and gain back your health? Whatever it is, you know the biz. Leave a like, crack a pipe, and let's get on with it. If you want to acquire the knowledge, you don't have to go to college. You can just come hang with Aaron and Dave.
Welcome to the Elevated News Podcast with Two Dope Dudes. We're a podcast focused on discussing local and national cannabis news and culture. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Dave.
What's
you know
up,
what's
buddy?
really crazy? Actually, literally right before I started this thing, I saw that I wrote David on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that I always, when I introduce myself, don't put the ID. So but then I went to go type it and I was like, but that's not how I write that. That's not what I write. I write that. And then when I introduce it, I say the other, but I also don't like saying my name out loud. So.
I've noticed it because you always say Dave and then it says David right there. And so I'm like, well, whatever. I mean, I was introduced to you as Dave, so I'll call you David if you want.
No, I've never preferred one or the other. I just literally before starting today, I also smoked a really nice joint before I started.
I can tell. I was going to ask.
I just sat down and I was like, yeah.
I mean, I did a big dab before we started too.
Nice.
You know, I had to calm the nerves because I'm pretty excited about our guest today.
Oh, one of the best.
I know. So
I feel really bad because I did this last week too, but we've jumped on.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who don't know, we use StreamYard, right? Is this what this is?
Yep.
It's like a streaming platform and everybody can loop in and whatever. I was sitting where I could see this man on the screen and didn't even do like a proper introduction of myself or nothing. Like I'm a pleb, like I'm a noob, you know? And I should have just said hello, whatever. But I think it's like way more like when they're in here, the introduction's more genuine.
Well, yeah, you know,
I did it with Z last week too.
Yeah, I mean that's something I always say. I think podcast something that makes people want to listen to them shows or podcasts is that people are genuine, and so I like to be in the moment. Like sometimes you call me before the show, and I'm like, we should talk about this on the show. Let's save it. You know what I mean?
100%. I don't know if we should segue that. If you got more that you need to say before, but if we should segue that straight into introducing our guest, whom is the one and only. Bring him on this screen. There he is.
Yeah, Jason, the editor and publisher, editor-in-chief and publisher of IlNewsJoint.
I used to say founding publisher.
Yeah, founding publisher. And see there, Dave likes him in the middle.
Yes.
Dave requested earlier that guests go in the middle, which I think is fine too. Jason, how are you, buddy?
I'm good.
Man, it's nice to have you on the show. We've talked in person about having you on the show a couple times, and we finally got to make it happen, dude. This is super awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah.
Jason, so here behind the scenes, right? Like I've always looked at you as like a superhero. So when you weren't wearing a cape when you came out here, I was like kind of blown away. I didn't know all superheroes didn't wear capes, but no, from a distance, like I don't know that we have ever officially shaken hands and said hello to each other. If we have, and I just have smoked too much and forgot it, maybe my apologies. But from behind the scenes, as somebody who has consumed your content for years now, to have you sitting here, it's almost like a celeb moment for me. I'm pumped about it. I loved your content for a long time, and I appreciate what you do, sir.
Yeah, one of the few anythings talking about medical cannabis in Illinois from the beginning.
That's way too kind and go a little overboard, but I'll take it. Yeah, the medical thing is, actually I always say we're a news outlet, so we don't try to, advocate or do anything like that besides medical patients, because they don't have
Right.
advocacy group in any way
Correct.
necessarily. Now they have several little people or groups or, you know, people who are pushing for the right things, but they're not a collective group and they don't necessarily have the power that other collective groups have.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And
Dave,
it's sorry, not to cut you off, but it is the forgotten, once we went legal, that's what happens in states that go legal, is that you kind of push aside your medical program just for money.
one of my favorite things that I used to point out on our show when we would be reading the current medical numbers is that Illinois has 55 medical dispensaries with no current plans to add any more. My
No,
favorite part of every article, just continuing to point that out, that medical is something that's forgotten in Illinois, and there's no real thought about compassionate use of medical cannabis anymore. It's about tax money, and I mean that's a whole other thing. But yeah, the medical people are forgotten for sure.
it's hard on the patients who are in central and southern Illinois, because they're the ones don't have the access to, a dispensary that's has their medication. And we've had tons of stories where they're driving almost 3 hour trip back there and back. And one patient told me that they ordered it, your online order, and made sure it was all right. And then when they headed over there and got there, they sold out the one medical thing out from underneath them. They didn't have it. That was the last one. And they already had it on, so that was a whole wasted trip. That example might be a little over the top compared to other ones, but the point is that you shouldn't have to travel 3 hours to get medicine, just when it's, there's other dispensaries right next to you can do the exact same thing. Just only
It,
reason we're not is because how the system is set up.
well, bingo. And I think the big thing is, and where the where we're lost at the legislative level, I think, is that they say, what do you mean they don't have access to? There's 200 plus dispensaries in the state. They can drive to any one of them. But that at the legislative side goes, okay, well then just pay me, because
Mhm.
I'm saying that now, instead of, because the taxation rate is 40%. It's the only difference. That taxation rate just absolutely murdering people who are, a lot of times, because I started at the beginning of cannabis too and watched a lot of medical patients come through, um, who are on fixed incomes, who are on government aided incomes to begin with, and to have the government supposedly aiding you, but then at the same time saying, I'm going to take as much as I can from you, feels so weird to me. Um, but yeah, I respect you standing up for the people, because the whole program was built on the back of the medical patient. This thing doesn't exist without a medical program.
Yes, there's a lot of dispensaries that are discounting it, but that's not the solution. That's not helping the dispensary either. That's selling
Well,
it. It's still it. Uh, and there's a question about how they're bringing that up on a medical side, or or on a recreational side.
it
On
can only be done on a recreational side.
right, and then what's your limits for that, which would be different.
It's your carry limit. I mean, you still only get 30. And that's the thing, is that there is a very definable line that between what a medical dispensary and a recreational dispensary are speaking to, the what is now BioTrack like, right? So a recreational dispensary only speaks to BioTrack like a recreational dispensary. And maybe in the overlap where there's the two, a medical and a recreational,
Well, there's
built
metric
into the
now.
same back end, could there be some weirdnesses and some finesses or some miss? I- I'm going to say it's plausible, but I'm going to tell you that, like, in the places that I've worked that are both medical and recreational, it's almost like two different businesses under one roof. And the way that those back end communication systems and tracking systems that we all know exist there, It's built into their POSs. They wouldn't necessarily allow for a um the medical patient's limit to be misrepresented, if that makes any sense. Outside of that, how they treat medical patients and what they do, would probably say is up in the air. Nobody really knows. And it's terrible with some of the stories that we both have seen and know. But as far as the tracking system from the state, I haven't seen many holes in it or how you could expose a hole in it. Right. And I've worked in three different companies worth of places. So I think I have a decent understanding and I've seen it. Um, I don't know that you can manipulate it, but also what patients are going through and what customers are going through too. There is some weirdnesses. What's printed out on the receipt a lot of times can be really weird, and it's very because the terminology isn't so clearly defined. Like I've always said, it's just a miscommunication. But um, until those things go on, oh, there will be massive
Yeah.
holes and people who like as a medical patient should be protected in tons of different ways, identity wise and financially and but anyway, I'm on the medical patient side. I'm fully for medical patients and I'm fully for just access to cannabis period without massive taxation because that is wild, but that's
Well,
that.
the the taxation is more of a political problem with the state. You know what I mean? That's we have a widespread problem that doesn't just pertain to cannabis as far as what our particular state's going through. You know what I mean? That's a whole other can of worms. That's just like until 100 other things happen, I'm not sure that we're going to get much change on that. Is just my personal feeling.
I've been told, but this is, I mean, for months, and that once the system switched over to the new one, whatever metric or whatever it is,
Yeah.
see, and I don't know anything about running any of those because that's not what I don't want to necessarily. I've had, bosses and stuff show me what they have to go through and how they have to do it, and it sounds pretty tedious and ridiculous. But um, what I was told, once they're implementing this and they get it set up from the inside and do it, that the medical could be done on any dispensary throughout. The reason they didn't is because when they first set it up, that the old system didn't have that different between them. Like you're saying, it's just two different businesses basically.
Right.
Or we could just pass a law with one line, which is what it is that's in the bill. I mean, you just pass that and then it's done.
Well,
So I do think that it's eventually going to happen, but why are we still waiting years? And Illinois' legislative efforts for cannabis related bills and issues has been pretty bad. And we've had one thing passed, and that is it. Everything else has got scuttlebutted, or the politics on it has been pushing on. And as I mentioned in the Flower Expo thing, that we actually got outside of the cannabis world, and other people saw what the cannabis and hemp world is like, just by having two of our major politicians going at it in the news, and having literally press conference where I'm laughing out loud
yeah.
at JB. It's just, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I've ever heard a governor go after a mayor like that. So it was interesting to see it get outside of our community, which is pretty small and incestuous in general, especially in Illinois, and then the whole cannabis industry in general, to see how other people react, and that don't think about it like we think about it, or are not inside the weeds that we are.
Yeah, I do see more and more states that are starting to act more like Illinois and raising their taxes and trying to profit more from it. Look at Ohio is raising taxes. Michigan wants to do a 35% excise tax for roads and whatever. Everybody likes the business model of Illinois cannabis. You know.
there's always going to be the sin tax. So
For
whenever they
sure.
tax, here comes the sin products. And cannabis is, even though, I wouldn't consider medical cannabis, you go get a suppository. I don't know how that's a sin tax. So, it is what it is. And Illinois will be Illinois. That's for sure.
That's they sure don't want to incentivize us to do it or open a business or anything like that. It seems like they're just trying to disincentivize everybody, which is a great way to collect taxes, I guess. Oh yeah, but
Well,
we have but even better than taxes, we have actually some much cooler stuff to talk about, and way more exciting than Illinois cannabis taxes, because you can listen to us talk about that anytime.
Well, I don't mind jumping into the medical side and at least letting people
Yeah.
something about it for that too. So
No, 100%. But we've talked about having you on. I always appreciated some of this work you do with veterans, the Friend in Need program, where you donate genetics and grow supplies and help people who are vets or who have cancer, who have debilitating diseases, grow their own cannabis. And the other thing I saw that you did very recently that I really was excited about having you on is that you created this endowment fund to support Southern Illinois University students, and I think that's freaking awesome, dude. You're literally helping the next generation of cannabis here, and that's super cool. And let's talk about this, because I think this is more interesting than Illinois taxes.
infinitely.
I started this. I'm an alumni. I
Sure.
went my master's there. And most programs, if you're in a graduate school, that's where I went to grad school. So if you're in a graduate school program, almost all of them have some kind of bridging scholarship or summer money funding or something.
Okay.
The SIU's Cannabis Science Center and their horticulture program and stuff don't have that. So that was the germ of the idea, was to try to figure out a way to, raise money for a student who can, who is, if you're a PhD student or you're
Mhm.
a master's student over there, you don't have money. I mean, they may be paying you. I remember what they paid us per month for classes and stuff like that, which was great for me, but it's not the same. And then once summer's gone, you don't have those classes, you don't have those other opportunities. So I'm hoping to get this set up enough to where we can do that. That would be something I'd like. If that's not possible, then it'll just go straight to a student who is in the program and continuing the program. And really, the criteria for it is just you have to be in financial need, and that's all I care. I grew up relatively poor. It sucks not to have resources.
Yeah.
When you have limited resources, you have limited possibilities, and that's all there is to it.
Yep.
The more resources and the more money you have and the more comfortability you can set, the better you're going to do in life. So we're hoping that is what this scholarship does.
So this is you're going to do this every year, and this is for the Intensive Controlled Environment Plant Production Certificate Program and the Cannabis Science and Production Specialization Program, School of Forestry and Horticulture, or School of Biological Sciences. I don't know why specialization was getting me real bad. Anyway, yeah. So any of those four things, five things.
I have to list those when I was creating the
I gotcha.
we wanted to make sure that anyone that was in any of their cannabis programs, and their cannabis programs touch all of those. So their Cannabis Science Center is there's several departments at SIU that are part of it. Because the plant does so many things and so versatile that it does that. So just in the wording, I had to make sure that if you're in any one of those programs, that you're eligible.
That's awesome. And so they have until this, what is this, on May 17th to apply? Is that correct? Did I read that correctly?
It's not about applying. I got to turn in the money before the fiscal year and make sure that the endowment started and everything. So the fundraiser is May 17th at Isle Lake at Emerald. So we're trying to make sure that I can raise enough fund to get that started and established each year. I mean, there's basically what you have to do is you have to put $25,000 in it.
Okay.
You can spread that out through some years so we don't have to, all jam it in once. And once I get the fundraising going, we go so many events and stuff. It'll
Yeah.
start collecting other people. Once we get it going and see that it's working and stuff, I have a feeling that it'll pick up steam as well. So I'm not sure I was going with that, but
And that's this event right here, the NewsJoint Scholarship Texas Hold'em fundraiser at the Emerald Dispensary, correct, on May 17th.
yes. And what we're doing is to help. I like poker. I love tournament
So does
poker.
Dave.
Nice.
I'm almost obsessed with it, and I am obsessed with it. So I've been wanting to do some kind of poker thing for a while, and this would probably fit the best. What we're doing is you donate money, for fun, and then you can swag out your player and whatever brand you're doing. So all brands are welcome, whatever it is, anything tangentially even touching the plant, we're good with that as long as you're a supporter of what we're doing and what's going on. Then you get to play in the tournament, and then we've got top 10 swag bags that we're going to fill up some products and swags, and then top 3 will be the biggest winners, and then we're going to have a what's called second chance game. So if you actually drive an hour or something to get there and you get knocked out before the first break, everyone who gets knocked out then is going to start their own tournament. Whoever wins that will get something too. So it'll help promote the brands and get their brand logo and everything out there. And I think hopefully it'll be fun. So
And
right, we have about 40 some, and I'm getting ready to make my second big push here to start getting and we're actually welcoming just individuals who might want to do something like this, who might want to support. You just have to give some, not as much as the brands are giving, but a donation and something like that to play.
That's awesome.
That's sweet.
Yeah, Dave knows more about the poker stuff than I do. I'm not a gambler, but I know Dave likes to play. Dave plays poker every week, actually.
Very, very regularly. I've spent a lot of time.
Is it like a cash game or
I prefer cash game. So I heard you say tournament. We are from two different sides of the belt.
No, I like cash game. I like playing cash game better.
Yeah.
I'm actually in like a free poker league that they play every night, but I play like one, and then if you get so many points, they keep track of points, and then every month you can, if you're top 3 and you qualify, you get to go to their big tournament, and then you can actually win money.
That's pretty cool.
And so it's just a free league that the bars kind of sponsor, and they get around it's the same thing here. We can't give out a cash prize because that's actually illegal. And if you think Illinois cannabis regulations are tough, check into the gambling regulations because they are just as crazy. Yep. So, we're not giving cash prizes. You can win the swag bags, which are just, donations back to us. So the brands are donating that stuff anyway.
Yeah, and you've got some like bounty players. You're hoping to get some executives from the cannabis brands or other companies to play, correct?
Yes, and what a bounty is if you knock out the bounty, so you take all their chips and they're out of the tournament, then you win a prize, and we're trying to get some donation prizes or bigger, nice prizes for those. I'm trying to just get it to be the executives because I think that would make it more fun to try to knock them out if they're playing. So we have a couple of those already, and I'm sure we're going to have a few more. Just got to get the prizes and match them up and everything with it.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you got any executives to agree to that yet.
There's a couple. They're more
awesome.
It's not the CEO of Verano or anything.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I would not think that
That's, I think,
all the CEOs of all the MSO CEOs would come together to play poker. That'd be kind of weird. I mean, it'd be great, but it'd be weird that somebody able actually got them all together. I mean, you know what I mean?
What?
you don't have to really know how to play. I mean, you might need to know a little how to play, but you don't really, have to be an expert at anything. This is not.
Yeah, this is more a charity
It's,
thing anyway. This is not card sharks.
yeah, and there's most of them won't.
That's awesome. Yeah, you put on a few events, quite a few events. This is actually closer to me. Usually you're down in Southern Illinois. You've had the symposium down there, correct, in Carbondale? Was that Carbondale?
And that's what the Cannabis Science had put on. We had the Academic Cannabis Conference,
That's right.
which we're not actually doing this year because what we're doing and what the symposium doing is so closely related that I'm trying to actually talk to Dr. LeMay and maybe do some. We might host an event after their second night because they have the symposium and the other hip hop and shrooms. They're doing it like back and back.
Oh,
back.
okay.
So we might try to host something for that or something to complement that. And maybe I'm actually thinking about a second fundraiser for the scholarship down there because we're doing this one up. This is our first event up north.
Yeah. Usually your stuff's down south, and you guys got to drive up north towards us to do any of the big stuff. You guys put quite a few miles on, don't you?
We just went up to the Flower Expo, and I mean that's Michael's driving 3.5 hours before he gets here. And then we get here and we drive up there 3 more hours. So it's a long drive for him. We drove straight up there and, stayed almost all time. We skipped out maybe a little bit early, but, and then just drove straight back. We do it all the time, actually, because it's not worth, getting a hotel or something. Now, if it's a bigger event and, when we sponsored or partnered with NECAN and stuff, that's a hotel. And then this poker event will be a hotel because we got to get early and set up. And
Yeah.
the night before, we have to do the swag bags. And when we did the Illinois Craft Showcase, we were there the whole day before setting and just trying to get stuff prepared.
I mean, I've done some when I do the Fox Valley Growers Club events. Like the setup and the teardown is always extra, more than you think. There's always last minute stuff that you forget, and it's it just is what it is sometimes.
Yeah, nothing's perfect. And to be honest, I always say if you can't adjust in this industry, you're just not going to make it because everything's an adjustment every day, all day. The Academic Cannabis Conference, we had 4 to 5 cancellations that morning.
Oh, I believe it.
One of them was that the person fired the employee that was supposed to come. The other one, they got stuck or got in a wreck or did something coming down from Chicago, which is, 6 hours for them, or they didn't want to come or whatever it was. It's just, there's constantly, and a lot of times, you're adjusting and doing something works out better, or the same, or just no difference. So stressing your ass off about shit is not the way to go, even though you do it because that's, you're wanting to make something good and something quality for people to come and enjoy. But, a lot of, and I don't want to be one of those, those motherfuckers who just act like cannabis industry is just, well, you can be shitty because it's the industry or you can be average person just because, and I think that's nonsense. I mean, you should strive to be good in whatever you're doing. I don't give a fuck what industry it's in.
I do feel like a lot of
industries.
Yeah, you nailed it. A lot of bums do hide behind their titles or their positions that they've achieved in this industry, and that is, I feel you, brother. I feel you.
You just gotta be like water and just like let it go and go with the flow. And sometimes just getting it done is better than stressing about what it's going to be like at the end, because like you can only handle so much.
We all do consume this product, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll be all right then.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Smoke another one, my guys. We'll be all right. Like, but it's those who don't consume the product that are part of how the product is both perceived and put out that is, woo, let's get some consumers in here.
We need more consumers in I think in the House is what we really need. We need more consumers in the state house and lawmakers. And then I think it'll be a little bit better.
We need fucking Tommy Chong for president, bro. That's what we need. No,
I don't know. I don't
not
know about
really,
that.
actually, but
I don't know about that. Tommy
yeah, I
Chong
don't know
is
about that.
he's probably too old to be president now.
I'm always interested in just I'm more in the data and the stats and more about rooting for a team or anything. But when I was teaching at Eastern and we're doing research papers, there's always every class out of one or two students trying to do a legalized weed paper, which is fine with me, because Colorado was actually doing it then. So they had plenty of data that they were being able to use, the stats and everything like that. And it was really nice. And every year you can just watch the acceptance of legalization go up and up. And I can remember, I mean, it was like 40s when I very first started, even when I was even younger. But once I started teaching, and it really started going higher and creeping up higher at a rate that I was like, man, this is really the public's getting on the side of this. And I remember when it broke more than 50% that people were wanting legalization. And now we're in the 60s probably range. I don't even know. I haven't looked lately, but I guess
I think it's high 50s or low 60s. You're absolutely on.
so if we're there, that's usually the number for politicians to say, holy shit, that's a issue that I can push. And we're just we don't have it yet. But I think the next election cycle, it'll just be the legalization will be the norm of it, not the not norm of it.
I think we're definitely heading towards that. We almost have to, with the amount of states where it's just at least decriminalized and legal now. And Dave made a good point probably 4 or 5 episodes ago, is that the next generation of kids are going to be 18 next year. And they're coming up with it, and it's so normalized now that it very in a few generations it's just not going to be the deal that it is now. It's going to be hopefully more widespread, and hopefully we have some better understanding with some of the studies going on right now on how cannabis and CBD and can actually help improve your life.
Yeah. I like the idea. One of the things I pay attention a lot to is just what is the drinkers to smoking pot ratio. And it's always been alcohol because alcohol is commercialized as more.
Right.
But now that gap is getting shorter and shorter. They're closer and closer to where, people are using cannabis way more, or as much almost as alcohol, or wanting to go out or not go out or whatever it is. There's going to be a breaking point to where it's more. It's the trend line. That's just where it's going. I don't know why it would plateau for any reason, to be honest, because the more people who smoke like it more than the alcohol in general, especially at older ages, where you just it's like it's not worth it to get shit faced one night and I have to recover 4 days because I'm fucking old and I can't handle anymore. So I'm really interested in that dynamics, because that also means that smoke lounges are there's more and more smoke lounges and places and private businesses who just are doing it themselves or whatever, how they're doing it, and how that relates to alcohol and bars and where's that going. And then there's going to be a point eventually where those two can finally connect. And when that happens, then that's when I really think that the cannabis use will be as much or more than alcohol.
Yeah, and we're starting to see some more grassroots type organizations form to fight for that, like the Illinois Cannabis Consumption Association, with the Consumption Act that they formulated and wrote and are lobbying to get done. I think that's a good thing, where we can actually enable municipalities to write rules for this so that more people can just open lounges and we can normalize this more. and people can have a place to, do the cannabis, instead of like going back to the nursing home where they're not allowed to smoke, not allowed to have cannabis products, um, we could write rules for movie theaters. Look at, I think New York's talking about allowing cannabis in movie theaters. I constantly point to New York, but they're another blue state just like Illinois, and it seems like they're out equitying Illinois, and Illinois is supposed to be the most equity centric market in the nation. I just don't know how we're letting New York beat us. It's a shame. Our governor should be ashamed that he's letting other states out equity us.
We'll see that in 5 years. That's what I say about the other states. The problem is, well, not problem. The interesting thing is, Illinois wrote it in the law, so and there's politicians who are going to fight for it and push for it every time every session. And New York might not; they don't have it in their law. They're doing it other ways, and it'll be interesting to see if it lasts as much or if it continues, or it'll adjust and move on, or be something else, or that's the most interesting it's really the reason I got into this like this, is because I like being in industries where you don't know where it's going, because it doesn't exist, that there's no path that you follow, because that path hasn't been written yet. So you're trying to be on the forefront of where you think you're going, and sometimes I think we're going somewhere and we don't, or we do, and that's the most kind of exciting thing for me about the cannabis industry, is there's no roadmap for it. So it's and then it's whoever cares the most. Are you going to host an event that helps the industry? Are you want to host an event and just make you some money because you think you're going to make money in the cannabis industry because you think there's a lot of money, and there's really not. So what side are you on that? Are you to get back to what you were saying before we got into the social equity, what were we talking about?
What were we talking about? We were talking about social equity. It just freaked me out because Dave just jumped off. We were talking about social equity, and we were talking about we were talking about ICA and the Consumption Act, and that's where we dropped off at. So we can just cut and continue talking about that. We'll just make fun of you and cut to something.
Well, that's what we should do.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fuck is this? Now I can't wait until it does kick back on. I'm on 4 screens. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, technology.
Dave's back. Dave broke his internet and ruined the whole flow, but it's okay, because we were kind of high and we almost forgot what we were talking about. So it's fine. Welcome back.
What I was going to say about the smoking and the events and the open consumption events, or whatever you want to call it, is the best way to fix that would be through the American Smoking Act, or whatever it's called. And the problem with that is their lobbyists are really powerful.
Yes.
They're national. They're not just they're not just in Illinois. They're also partnered with like the Mothers Against Drunk Driving and a bunch of other, associations and stuff like that. So it's almost impossible, this is what the lobbyist told me, to, get that into the law as an amendment and just have smoking, just like you'd smoke a cigarette. Everything that you would go for a cigarette would be, you could use cannabis in the same way, which is where it should be, really. So if you want to go out and you have to get a beer garden or a fenced in to smoke your cigarettes, then you should be able to smoke cannabis there. It's just so hard to get that through because of, the pushback on it.
I think what they were. I don't know if you've looked over the bill that they proposed and that they're lobbying for, but they have like a part of the Smoke Free Illinois Indoor Act where it outlines what's allowable as in exemptions to the act, and then it shows how they should be able to fit right into that. So I don't know if that's something that they've looked at yet, or if they're just going to continue to get pushback regardless because of big tobacco or the non-indoor smokers. The American Heart Association, I think, is a big donator
that's what.
to some of the
Yes. And I mean, they're getting the ICA's getting pushback from people inside the cannabis industry who think that's too much regulations. Why are you adding more regulations onto, all these other things that we could just be doing if we did it a different way or something. Again, though, I mean, the different way to do it is going to be near impossible. And, if you're fighting for that, the people who are fighting for stuff now don't have the money to compete with the other ones who are against it. But how else are you going to do it? What is your solution to trying to get better events? So
to just do it and hope that the state can do what the state does historically, which is come for their money. And I think because you are our favorite source for Illinois medical and recreational numbers. Numbers have been slumping and slumping and slumping. And our government tends to say it's everybody else and we're losing money and it's this or that. I think it's very logical that the next step is that the state's going to start enforcing people throwing open consumption, or not even open consumption, but open market, black market events, gray market events. And then it's untaxed cannabis. Untaxed cannabis to the state that's what they're going to look at next. And they're just hoping that the police are not going to come enforce the laws. But that's what the police do. That's what their job is. So just to hope and pray that it's not going to happen because it's recreationally legal, or you're going to be able to tell the cop that it's hemp without a COA. I mean,
that is what I had been told behind the scenes, why the governor and the mayor had the split and why it broke up that last session and they had the big fight is because the mayor wants that hemp tax revenue. He wants to control that side of it instead of having, that side of the bill and whatever was in that bill control it. And that was the biggest split for that was tax revenue so the hemp debate, it's kind of played out for me at this point.
I mean, you're from Southern Illinois. Dave and I both are. Well, I mean,
for you Chicago people,
I grew up in the cornfields, so like I understand farms, and Dave and I have both been on agricultural hemp farms before, so we understand what hemp, like how people just get concerned about, THCA hemp. I could care less. That's all the other cool stuff that we can do with hemp, all the stuff we can do with hemp seed, stuff we can do with whole hemp seed oil, just all the cool agricultural things that we could do, and we could actually change a lot of people's lives. Is what we're really losing in the hemp debate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hemp's the saver of the planet, and cannabis is a saver of the person.
You're not wrong.
Yep, 100%. You could stop a massive amount of deforestation by growing hemp fields.
Have you ever seen the hempcrete thing where they're blowing? Those things are cool. That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's I think there's a place in Chicago that's using some hempcrete to repurpose their building. That's really cool. We've seen some of the hempcrete stuff that's done. I think the big limitation on that is just the manual labor required to actually install the hempcrete, or the hemp insulation.
Yeah, now we have 3D printing houses, So
I mean, yeah, we can 3D print concrete. Like, let's go. I guess that'll be the next thing is 3D print some hemp houses, huh?
Yeah.
I'm quite confident that I saw something of that nature.
Yeah. Somebody's got to be doing, or they got to be doing one of those manual 3D printing with the buckets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've seen the hemp insulation is super sick. If you haven't seen hemp insulation, that's really
Mhm.
cool. If you haven't, there was a hemp composite that I was actually able to put my hands on recently that they were going to use as like building materials, and it's like 100% waterproof, and just the textile strength of the stuff was beautiful. I was like, holy cow! Like the what hemp is getting turned into in a textile form and you know, it's really neat. I'm impressed by the different applications that that one plant is capable of, and like you said, that saves the world, right? All the other things that we don't need to be cutting down, especially trees, right? Like, so my number one like biggest no brainer duh type of thing is like it takes 30 years plus for a tree to grow, and it takes, depending, but 90 days for the hemp plant to grow. Okay, maybe a full cycle or a full season, but 90 days we can harvest a thing and be using that for the same applications, paper, housing. There are just so many uses. So yeah, love the statement, love the hemp will save the world, cannabis will save the people.
Yeah, that's great.
Again, it's the same plant. I mean, there's the only difference is
Literally.
a political difference that was established by the 2018 Farm Bill. That's what caused all this stuff. It's not the people in the industry that cause it. They're just looking out for their own, which, you can understand on both sides. That's what you do when, you have shit, you look out for it.
Right.
So, but if they didn't try to regulate it in the way they did and not know what they're doing with it, and leaving, if you want to call it a loophole or whatever you want to call the THCA thing, that's where it all started. Then the splits come, and then it's a wedge issue or whatever it is. But before that, what did we do before that? We didn't think of it as this. It was this side and this side. That's politics, and the industry fighting over things that their own interest instead of the plant, doing all the versatile things it's capable of doing.
Yeah, we're trying to
Yeah.
legislate
And I think
legislate nature, which is kind of ridiculous.
yeah,
Can't do it.
yeah.
Like, yeah, how are you going to legislate nature? Nature is what it is.
Especially when you're trying. I mean, we don't know. What I always say is we don't know anything about the plant. We stopped researching it forever, and that just put us way behind. I mean, we research it as much as we research other fruits and vegetables, and or just anything. And all that is what I think the biggest difference is for legalization is that the research is back on. I mean, again, not to toot the Cannabis Science Center and SIU, but I love what they're doing. They're just doing all
yeah,
kinds of research, and they don't care what it is. Hemp can, it just doesn't matter. It's this plant. It's the same plant. They're just trying to figure out. They're really open on what studies they do and how they do, or not how they do the studies, but what is including in it, which is all, again, going back to the scholarship thing, was all those departments have input on that because it's touching their students and how they're doing, and new careers and stuff like that. So to have a good industry, you have to have a good start for that workforce,
Mhm.
or training and all that. And that's one thing we hear is bud tenders aren't trained well enough, or some are and some aren't, and you don't, who knows what. All training is important at that lower level, so when it moves it way up, those people are going to get better jobs, and if they're good in the cannabis industry, or even average, as I always joke, you can move up, and or do something more. So the better educated, the better even the more confident you are about
Yeah,
that employment and how you're going in the industry, is going to make it a better industry.
that's so fantastic. I really think that people should come out and I mean, there's a link on the website to donate to the fund, but you should come out and play some poker or donate some merch to a player. You know what I mean? Sponsor a player, come out and sponsor this so we can make the cannabis in Illinois better overall. And
I really
I
want
just
this
think
to
it's
be
great.
one of my legacies in this industry is, again, if you're doing something and you're just not doing anything, I don't know, altruistic,
Worthwhile.
somewhat, yeah. I mean, if you're not trying to push something forward in a better way, that's not saying we don't, fuck up or do bad shit or whatever, because we're human. But I want something to last longer than me in this industry because, who knows how long it's going to be. This is something that once I get established fully, it just pays out because it's through the interest and stuff on it. It'll be every year. It can still have, I can still fundraise every year for it. And the bigger I make it, the more payout it gets. The more we know it's going to be consistently done every single year. That's the goal of it.
Something I always say is affect change at the local level, and that's the most effective way to affect change. Is
I mean,
doing
I'd
it.
like to get to the point where we're doing that, and we're also doing Oakton College
Mhm.
has certificate programs. So we trying to raise gonna raise my trying or gonna we're gonna get pretty much enough money to pay for their highest price certificate, which is the growing one. I can't remember what it's called, but and do that. So I want to be able, in 5 years, I want this to be established where we're doing multiple students, and it can be something bigger than just two schools. It can be something, and we can collaborate with other schools. The one thing I've done from almost day one in here is try to incorporate academia and studies and everything that that side of it is involved in cannabis. And the faster those, and the quicker they get together and meld, the more normalization it is for the industry across the board. Because once you're, Dr. LeMay, I'm not sure if you ever met him. He's just a great person to work with. He's just enthusiastic. You can tell he loves the plant in the way that you should, from all sides. He's super, super smart. And those are the people who, are helping this industry get better. Now I can hear other people who are, saying, they're talking science and I got my growing art here.
Mhm.
He's not like that. He believes the art of it. He wants to combine it all. It's not just hemp. It's not just cannabis. It's a plant that we can do everything with, or we can study every
Mhm.
way it goes. And that's, I think the beauty of the plant overall is just the versatility of it in every aspect. What I like in it, matter of fact, what I like in the plant, most people don't. I like really energetic, high energy, weed with focus, that I call, work sativas usually.
Mhm.
Most people don't like that. They don't, and the industry doesn't like growing it because it's not profitable as much as other stuff. Takes too long, doesn't give us good buds usually.
Yep.
So, I grow my own.
Yep.
Most people, and if I'm smoking that joint in a little group, I might even mention that, especially if I have something that's a little more racy. If you don't like high, energetic sativa or something, if you have problems with that, probably don't do this. Now
Yeah.
I don't understand who will just wake up and hit a carta that's GMO in it in the morning, and
Yeah.
I'd be asleep 40 minutes later. That's not what I want. I always joke I'm this close to unconsciousness, so it doesn't take me long to just fall asleep.
Yeah. You just need something to keep you going.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I just have the kind of energetic work weed, and then at night it's just knock out and put me to sleep. That side of it. So I'm not a fan of hybrids in general, and um, I'm not a fan of Girl Scout cookies in general, or strains that have just had 50 Girl Scout genetics. You look at
Yeah.
the page and it's literally the fourth of it is just, there's a lot of one notes for those to me. And I'm not against the cookie flavor and all that. I'm more citrus and fruits, but, I like good funky, and I just like original flavors. When you keep going back to it, it doesn't really matter what it is. There's just something to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody wants gas right now, but I do like the old Landry strains. I do like the old, just the OG funk and citrusy and just something
That,
about it.
I don't know if you sold the Grow Journal I do, but the Icy Grape, but Copa Genetics, just I just keep the plant was finicky as fuck to grow, but I just keep going back to it. It's just there's such a weird grapey, licoricey,
Hmm.
great flavor to it that I just kept going back to it and back to it. And it's not something like if you would say, oh, and even when I was reading the descriptions or whatever, I was like, that might be good. What you just never know. That's the thing is I learned in the first couple of years of growing is no expectations.
Yeah.
Because whatever you expect, it ain't fucking happening. The plant does what the plant wants to do, and then you adjust to that or you deal with it. That's it.
You just show up every day and make sure that it has what it wants.
Give it its unconditional love that it needs.
Yep.
Then hope for the best.
Yeah. Yep. And the trick is to be able to repeat that over and over and over and over, and that's
Well,
the fun part of growing.
The hardest part to reproduce in that is the unconditional love. All right. It's not that it's hard, it's that many people lack the ability, right? If you were never taught love, you don't know how to love back outwardly, right? So, in the same way, education is the way to teach the love, though, too, because what we call love and what we consider unconditional love for that plant is something that can be achieved through education to where it can sustain and be whatever, but also I think it will breed the passion. Somebody who's going to apply for the scholarships and anything anyway probably has a passion, and that's where they belong to begin with. But yeah, absolutely, I think it's this plant gives quite a bit, and there's a lot to learn still from it. And I respect, Jason, your I love your perspective on all of this, right? It's kind of a no bullshit. Like, we could sit here and debate dumb shit all day, but where is the progression in it? Right. And I hear that when you talk about what's the difference between hemp and to me, I'm as tired of it as you are. I think it's hilariously foolish that there is a level of ignorance. People don't understand it. So I don't know, brother. I fully back your perspective on.
It's actually probably top 2 or 3 things that's been the most difficult thing as a journalist to explain to the layman person that doesn't know anything about cannabis. The THCA, what it means, the combustion, and what it does before. All that stuff is hard to explain. I mean, just the difference between THC, THCA, and what. And again, get to back to before I think I got us sidetracked is we don't know anything about the plant. We don't know what terpenes do, and everybody says, "Oh, it's this," but I've had COAs that have, you think it has, a certain terpene, you think it's going to do something, or it's not, like that terpene does this. And, it's not really like that. It's something completely different. Even in one chemotype or different phenotypes that you can have such a variety of, flavors to, and then that doesn't even consider the surroundings and what the plant is taking,
environmental stuff.
outside, and how that equates to,
And that's
that's
just the plant.
Yeah, and we don't.
We're not even taking into consideration how different us as individuals are. So when you say the sativa that gets you up and racing and going, there are the antithesis of you, somebody who will take that to go to sleep, right? And there's a weird connection that kind of goes on here, and I think it has to do with how our brain's functioning to begin with, and where we fall in the scale of anxiety or depression, racing or slowed thoughts, whatever the movement is. But how we interact with that, with what we're interacting with that with, and like you said, I mean, inside the plant, there's so many nuances and so many differences. And I've watched massive grows in the state of Illinois bring out a strain, call it a sativa. The next time they bring it out, they called it an indica. And then the third time they brought it out, they called it sativa again. And it's because the main things that we consider sativa or indica most of the time is myrcene dominance or limonene dominance, where if that's what we're classifying the differences of this plant as, we've massively missed the hundreds of other components that actually bring this thing together. And that's why, again, simple classifications of sativa, indica, hybrid, whatever, kind of give a general thought process, but it's not a true explanation. And I think that that's where like some of the big fail towards, the how we get it out to the public as a, or how it becomes easier to digest to the public, right? Or the public digests it. Because, like you said, the debate of THCA and THC, it's so confusing to somebody who doesn't know, but like, why the plant does the same thing, whether whether it's hemp or it's just the plant. That one plant is the plant, and it actually is cannabis. It's not.
We don't know anything about cannabinoids. I mean, we don't
No,
know.
we have general.
And we don't know how many there are, and what I mean. There's, they're discovering new ones every, it seems every month almost now. I do see, a lot of that getting put in back, like the old school strains that are, there might be a little comeback for that, at least in the growing world, I think. But we don't know how, to get back to your point, how that affects your endocannabinoid system. And, what I need is, the thing is, if I get too much CBD, I get a headache every time. I don't know why. But I like, in my edibles, I like a 5 to 6 to 1 of THC to CBD. I like a little bit. It just helps that sweet spot. I do a lot of RSO.
I've had this same thing, Jason, the headache thing with CBD, and I've found that sometimes it depends on the source of said CBD a lot of times too, because the methods of extraction to get that into a more purified form can be something that would lean more towards a headache response. But that's like, again, here, and I'm fully on your side. If I have too much CBD, then I don't feel great. But go smack an entire syringe of sweet pea from Shelby County and tell me that you get a headache from it, and I would be mighty surprised, right? That stuff is just so clean and so well done. And that's the only source of CBD that I've had in that purity of it, where I'm like, wow. But I think it's because there's more of a whole plant experience, and it's not just the CBD, right? I think there might be other things at play that could be. So, like you just said, we don't know shit. We're going, oh, it could be this, and we're speculating a lot. And a lot of times there is a consistency too. And those are the things I think we lean towards. And as a medical advocate or somebody who's been in the medical space trying to advocate for patients and trying to use for proper use, stick to the consistencies, stick to the things you know that work for you, and that's okay. And if it works for you but it doesn't work for the other people, don't get offended by it. Go, okay, sorry that's not the one. I'm going to go get you the other one, because there's so many options out there now that like there is the right thing for you if you're looking for it.
We're also in the marketing world now. I mean, because it's legal and you're going to get marketing now. So, the marketing of the CBN, it does nothing for me for sleep. I mean, it helps other people I know. But again, that maybe that's not what my body needs, because I'm already so close to sleeping anyway. So, I mean, it just affects the versatility of it is why it is, what it is, and so great, I think. Like, if the more we know about it and the more that they're going to find those things out about what certain things do, the more marketing is coming too. So, I mean, they're marketing I love the THCV gummies, and the CBG gummies are good too. A lot of those ratio ones are really good. So those are like new marketing things. I mean, we had 1-to-1s. That was it on the market, and those were actually, when the first year, those are actually on the medical side almost always. So what they're adding to it is good, but at the same time, when you're using marketing to do it, that you're selling something that might not be doing what for one person as it does the next person.
Yep. We need to be selling the education.
Oversimplifying it, basically.
Yeah. Hey, I know you had a hard out at
Really good now,
3:15.
so there's no worries.
What's that?
If you wanted to go longer, I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
I'm good. Somebody else is doing it, so we're good.
Okay, no problem. I just
Oh,
wanted to
okay,
make sure that
perfect.
if you had to go, that
Well,
you were
especially
good to
since
go.
we got cut off a little bit in the middle.
Oh, yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. Um, yeah. Awesome. Sorry to
No,
interrupt then. I just ruined the flow then. Go ahead.
no, I think it's completely fine. I appreciate that you said it because my brain was starting to get a little anxious over it too. I was like, oh shit, I feel so bad. I'm talking too much, but I do
Well,
enjoy.
as an interviewer, you want to know my take on this interview? What you guys are most passionate about? I mean, the industry in general, growing. Anytime I mention growing or anything,
Yeah.
you're in it. You perk up. There's a little more excitement in it. And again, when I first started growing, I was actually doing it for the Grow Journal and content. And people were like, "Oh, it's great. You'll like your own weed more. The synchronous or the what I don't know what the word is, but the hippy dippy bullshit." I said that the connection and everything. It's true. I, you have parents that are ill, and you worry about shit, and I was sitting in the bedroom, just sitting there. The fans are blowing, that everything's pretty vegged, and it's just like it's yes, there it is. I was in there
Yeah,
for
I
like
know.
10 minutes, and I thought, what are you doing? I was like, apparently I'm just fucking relaxing and trying to decompress or something. So I just, then you got to let that happen. If your body's doing it without you're doing it, you need to pay attention and listen.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I always talk about since I'm a caregiver, and so I grow for my patient only. Is what I get out of it is I just get to go to the garden every day and I get to do something. I get to decompress, and no matter what else is going on, whether I got to record something or I got to mow the lawn or my person's mad at me or whatever, I can just go there and decompress once a day, and everything is okay. That's it's everybody needs something to show up for, and growing is a great one to do because you can get your hands in the dirt and you can accomplish something and you can watch these fantastic plants grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what sucked for me is at the beginning, I was doing it, all on camera for the Grow Journal. So, and it was a lot of pressure because I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I try to do something different every time. That's why consistency is hard for me. But
Sure.
at the beginning, I really had no idea. And, it's like you have breeders sponsoring your shit and you're like, oh, am I going to fuck their shit up? Am I going to make it look bad? Nobody wants me to, so, but again, when I started doing this, I wasn't going to just, oh, here's my best bud. I did a grow journal about fucking up an entire grow, I tried to save this old strain. It hermed out and seeded everything up that I had. And it just, it almost devastated me because, I just put months into work. I've documented everything. And it just doesn't, the buds actually looked all right, but it's not,
You can't
I'm not
change
going to
it.
lie. It's not like, I'm not going
Yeah.
to act like it didn't happen. Because that's part of it, and if you don't know what you're doing, like the good, I should be a little more. I don't know. I have a lot of resources, and I can text 4 people and instantly have something tell me what the fuck I did wrong.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of resources for that. So I shouldn't bitch at all for people who don't have any of that, and or just getting on Facebook and what's wrong with this, and then you have 50 dickhead growers
People saying it's cal mag. Yeah.
Yeah, or just anything. It's just smart aleck bullshit. People who are just trying to get an answer to their plants, or have to put up with just because you don't know where else to go.
I mean, it's just so hard to answer those questions online.
It
Like
is.
the two things is just like watering and just consistency. Like those are the two things, and like IPM, those spray your plants once a week with whatever you choose. I'm not going to argue about it, and then just water it every day at the same time, and just be consistent. And that's the number one thing you can do to grow good plants. Otherwise, it's a weed. It'll grow anywhere, and it'll grow through the concrete. Like literally, it'll go through a crack in the sidewalk. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
There was
You
an
know?
old car when I was younger. It had decomposed, and there was a bag of seeds in the glove box, and it fell down, and it grew weeds.
That's fantastic.
A car that decomposed
Awesome.
fell through down that was in a glove box that fell to the ground and got into the ground and grew.
That's fantastic.
That's
Did
awesome.
did you
The
get
way I
pictures of
described
it?
it. What's that?
Did you get pictures of it?
No, this was when I
It's
shit
just like,
get near weed. Fuck
yeah, yeah.
that age. The real growers there were the real people who were just that fuck up everybody. I'm going to do what I want anyway, and
Yeah.
shit. Was that worth a felony when I'm 20s and whatever?
I mean, people sure seem to think so now, but I mean, we don't have anybody checking, but I don't think that means
Yeah, but
anything.
now you can grow 4 plants and it's a couple $100 fine.
Right.
If you're not over 5.
Civil disturbance.
Yeah, civil disturbance.
Civil disturbance, right? And you can grow the plant. It's just the cultivation of it when you get a little bit hairy, right? If you're
Yeah.
drying and curing it and whatever, and they find you, then it's different because you are now in possession of something that is
Well, if you're
right.
processing it
But
into
in the
anything
growing
else, it's a
process, you are
felony.
protected.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said as soon as you start
Yeah.
processing it, it's a felony. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Is right. Right. Theoretically. There are
well,
ways,
I mean,
yes.
people have gotten felonies from dab presses because that's processing.
Ugh.
I've definitely seen
Wow.
it. They'll get raided for some stupid stuff, and they'll get an extra felony because they're processing cannabis. We're still writing
Ugh.
laws every day in Illinois to criminalize cannabis.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's it.
I mean, that's what they used to do. Is like they pulled you over and they would add every charge they can. So then, when you're trying to plead down, they can use that to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really give a shit about the smaller ones anyway. They're trying to get you stuck with, whatever it is you did wrong.
I don't know. I still say, the next step for the government is to come after the untaxed cannabis because we can't sell enough tax cannabis. So we're going to have to start collecting on the untaxed cannabis, especially once we start taxing the hemp again.
There is a bill that's what is today? I think the 11th is the deadline for the committee to do something. It's to tax the hemp drinks through the liquor law.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
So you know,
drinks are
what I say about the hemp thing is wherever it goes. I mean, if it's going in the direction that I don't know if it's a Curly, I don't know, whatever the CEO is. I mean, who thinks it's the back door to legalization? If you're just
GTI Ben
GTI guys
Kogler
doing that, or if it's the other way, what I say, if it is the back door, then all these small hemp farmers are just going to get drowned out. I mean, the other side, they've got so much money, they can do it to that. They did it to this industry, so they can do it to that industry. Or is it going to go back the other way where they'll just, start regulating the shit out of the hemp side? Or can they fix the farm bill and change it and do something like that? Or put it back to where it was before 2018 and that loophole got interpreted that way or whatever? Or I guess it wasn't interpreted. They said it wasn't. So once that happened, then every breeder and person I ever knew just like, all right, it's on. Thank you. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not up to us to educate the government. The government should be educated, and it's not fair for the government to say that the bud tenders aren't educated because they're not even educated.
What I think is interesting is, the Illinois has a law about seeds and how to get your seeds, and it's all through the dispensaries. But so technically, anybody in Illinois who's doing anything with seeds is illegal because or buying them. You can't buy or sell. That's in the law. So I did an article on this once about really the market took care of itself because while Illinois is trying to figure out how to get their money on that side of it, because that's really what it is, they want their cut somehow. Grow shops and other people just took care of it. They just started doing it themselves. So if the market wanted it, they were, if the market demands it, somebody's going to give it to them. And then it's turned into what it is, and nobody talks about that as if like the hemp side of it or whatever.
I mean, you can go buy clones at most grow stores at this point. But BioTrack didn't track seeds, but Metric does.
uh, it's interesting to see other like companies who are out of state and come in here, and we talk to them, and they're like, we wanted to do this, but Illinois said no.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
welcome
Yep.
to Illinois.
Yeah, welcome to Illinois. Well,
Yep.
I mean, anybody who made money in Illinois is gone, and now we're stuck. And
Anybody who's made money in Illinois is headquartered out of Illinois now and operating out of 10 other states.
yeah, for sure.
And this was my
'Cause
big
to
thing at
stay
the
in Illinois is
beginning.
crazy.
Because it's so hard to enter the market in Illinois, the people who are capable of pulling it off will be able to enter the market in any other state as long as that thing gets out there, right? Like they have SOP is way bigger than most other states will ever require. So they come in and almost own the right to the thing. As weird as it is, the ways that the other states have set it up for these people, it's like, yeah. So I don't know.
I always say my metaphor is it's like a wheel, like a bicycle wheel with a bunch of spokes on it, and that wheel just turns, and we're a spoke on that wheel. Then Cole, Preston, Cole. He's a spoke, and what he does is important to the industry, and how he does it, and what he advocates for. All that has to balance out. I mean, early on in the industry, and even now, that the MSOs had they were the only spokes, really the biggest ones that were doing all the work and everything. But what I always say, if it's a true balance where even there is some medical cannabis group that has there should be, that spoke should be there. So whenever there's something that is going the wrong direction, there's a counterbalance to it.
Sure.
And there's people who are trying to fight that or push against it. That's what the industry needs. There's always going to be MSOs. There's always going to be big companies. We're a capitalist. That's what we do. That doesn't mean that you can't have the craft grows. You can't have these other things. You can't fix regulations to where it's more competitive, or where you can at least have some kind of level footing compared to the people that are the MSOs, or the ones that do have the money. And I mean, you say MSO now, but really there's craft grows that are like, they're MSOs technically. They're in a couple different states. I always say that craft grow people can screw up their weed just like anybody else.
I mean,
they're going to be good.
100%.
So it's not easy. And
MSOs can mess up their own weed too. I mean,
I think
we got a couple recently.
What I used to always say when people are like wanting to, like, how bad, it's like there's not a company or not a grower company in this state that hasn't had an issue in this 4 or 5 years now. I mean, every and that's the thing. It's you're mass producing, and one little thing. Again, I tell this story. I don't even know if it's true. It could just be bullshit, a hype of a story for cannabis, but a grower who disgruntled employee got pissed, went and got spider mites, released him in there before he quit.
Not surprising.
You're a grower. You can be the best grower in the world, growing the biggest facilities, but if people are sabotaging you, and you're what do you do? That's not something you look now. That could be an issue in employment and how you handle your employees, but that doesn't also mean one employee might not just be freaking out and doing stupid shit. You just don't know.
Yeah, but these also multi-license owning, multi-facility owning, multi-state operating places in Illinois still had gravel floors in their fucking main grow rooms and shit. And like, couldn't figure out why the mic problem or why their aphid issues were as bad as they were. And they went on for years doing the shit, literal years. And then, so all they did was grow more limonene dominant shit. Their entire, from one end of their strain, whether it was indica, sativa, hybrid, didn't matter. All of it had some level of limonene in it because it was more mite and aphid resistant. And like your solution was to try to change the cannabis instead of to try to change the environment, to fix the problems. We didn't, which is the groundwork, right? It's at the base level of everything, you fucked up. And there is gravel ground laid right now, but we're growing plants on top of it. Well, we can't kill the whole room or stuff. What do we do with all the plants in here to go put the gravel in there? And how much do we, that's just too much of a headache. It's too much to think about. And it might cost more money than these people have access to. They're operating on tiny budgets, right?
Yeah.
If any of them even have a budget at this point, they're recycling whatever they can to get how. It's a very broken thing. And like you said, there's all of the spokes are just kind of counteracting one another. And I'm not mad at any of them, right? I just want the thing to progress in a positive way. If there's MSOs or craft grows or anything, I just want more access to it. I would like to see a legitimate competitive market where the cream was able to rise to the top, right? Instead of whatever's going on right now, like it's a dog eat dog, who has the most money at this point, kind of, or who can continually get money from somewhere to fuel this initiative. And, for all of whatever they're doing it for, which seems like a profit, comparatively to what you, Aaron, and I seem to be doing it for, which is the betterment and the progression of people or the plant, either way.
Too.
There's 3 P's involved there.
I'm not going to lie and say I'm not trying to make a profit too.
Oh, for sure.
I'm in the industry, and what I always say to Michael, everybody's trying to get theirs, and that includes us. We're not, so
and that's okay. You just have to do it in the right way.
And then I think that's the second part, is as long as you're doing it in the right way, or you think you're doing it. I mean, there's probably plenty of people who don't think we're doing it in the right way. And, we review products they don't think it should be reviewed, or whatever that is. But I have my standards. I set those on year one. When we started, I have, I already knew what the editorial standards we wanted. I knew what my editorial review standards were going to be. So all that stuff, it hasn't changed for us on our side. But at the same time, if you say, oh, we support craft grows and stuff, and we do, you just do it by saying it. Well, how's it really helping?
Right.
If you really want to do it, we wanted to try to do something for it, is to do the Illinois Craft Showcase. Which we actually are doing again. So that'll be in the fall, hopefully.
That's awesome. I wanted to get to that last year. Just sometimes getting down south is so hard,
Yes.
You understand, because you get up here, so.
Yes. But one of the goals we kind of had was to try to build the cannabis, event community more in central and southern Illinois. And really, Keefe Cannabis has probably done the best work on that, as collecting that.
They're corporate backed anyway.
They'll have a lot of people there at their, which is on the same day as ours, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah. But we're doing, it's not the same thing. So it's not necessarily, there are brands that'll be there, but it's not like we're fighting over the same stuff. But that is, again, what it is. And I'm not going to be mad at Travis, because he has the fuck. He's just trying to do his shit, and he does it well. So, that's the other thing, is I don't mind the competition. I kind of like that. It's I don't know what word I'm trying to pick for it to be nice, but the douchebag or douche canoes that are just being mean in the industry or causing strife, or what is the purpose of that? Or, I don't get that.
Greed, personal gain.
I'm old fuddy duddy, and that's not where I'm not from the online world and where that shit is.
Well,
I
people
don't
just,
like that.
yeah, they get too weird and they get jealous. They see somebody else has something that they want. Instead of being a genuine person and making a good product and working for what they want, they just want to bring other people down because it makes them feel better.
Well, but
And
I think that
that's
lines.
their mental deficiency.
I'll back you in saying too, when I was saying profit, I don't mind that people make money from this. I mind the greed in it, right? There's a line inside words, right? Where profit to some people is like, well, that's not bad. We should all make money. But then to other people, it's like they hear it and they're like, well, how much are you profiting? Right. So there's lines within terminology, even that the thing is where we've talked about a lot lately the size of the pie is being limited by brutal regulation, misinterpretation of just terminology altogether, and then pure fucking greed. Like there's no other way to, whether it's political greed or it's personal greed, or I don't. The word for it is greed, and it's the idea that the people who have the power, who make the rules and make the whatever, or have the access to the goods or the services or whatever, they honey hole it. They use it for themselves. They don't allow others to access it. They put regulations in place that try to limit the access of others, and that's what the difference between, again, all of us here and all of the advocates that we talk to, that we've had on, the Z's and the Maddies and the Alex, everybody that comes on here and talks about it. I think there's a love, there's a passion, there's a hope for progression, but again, for the positive, right? No matter what it is, just all of us working this way up, just go up.
Yep.
Where right now it seems like everything is so restrictive, so slow, and the people who have the most access to, and the people who make the biggest of the rules and the biggest of the impacts in the rule making are so misaligned with the rest of what the initiative or the capabilities of the plant are. It's just so crazy to me that there's so drastically two other sides of the thing. And it's like, it sucks because the logic, the math, the science, the anecdotal is provable enough in cannabis's favor at this point. Like you said, we're 60 plus percent acceptance rate, but like, look at the amount of actual positive that this thing has brought, and not just in a personal use, right? Because everybody who uses this thing has their own story towards it, but then everybody who uses it to make a living is another positive story. There's something beautiful in it. And I don't, that's the same thing. I don't mind if you're a MSO, if you're a monster, I care if you're a monster, because if I say you're a monster, it is because you are the greediest of people that exist out there, and you are taking away from the opportunities for the rest of people to add to the pie. Anybody who's willing to access this thing, and that's why, again, we can loop this right back around to your scholarship. Anybody who's willing to access this thing and do something for it is just another avenue, another resource, it's progress in the community and the building of cannabis altogether. Hemp, cannabis, fuck it, the textile or the personal use, I don't care. This plant is misrepresented in so many lights. It's called way more negative things than it's called positive. And for all of us, we're all just trying to go, that's fucking foolish. We're waving our arms in the air now. I'm yelling at a screen here trying to go, why is this so silly? And you know what? I'll keep doing it because the damn plant is so worth it.
It's
Each
hard.
one of you.
It's hard watching big companies treat entry level workers that in ways that I mean that's every industry I've ever worked in. Though I mean the entry level workers are always
Yes.
going to get treated
Yeah.
the worst. And again, I mean it's hard finding people who work. To be honest, I understand the other side of it too. So we at least once probably twice a month at least we have somebody trying to we want to do and write or do something for or whatever it is, and all I'll say is like send me your work portfolio and I'll look it over,
Yeah.
or if you don't you can write something on spec. It's almost like I'm kicking their dog or something. It's like, how dare you ask me to produce something that shows that I can do it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not writing or doing free content for you just to prove that I can do it. And then so how do I know you can do it? You know, I said it this the Expo thing. It's not hard. I think I have a good eye for talent. I've worked with Pulitzer Prize authors. I know what good writing is. I know what good communications is. And I hired Michael Straight. He was on, it was Instagram, just
Yeah.
doing a review, doing something. And I was like, that shit's legit. And then you watch other people and well, I mean, what are they doing? Again, I don't know where I'm going with saying that besides watching big companies make a lot of money and then not pay lower levels where, I've been, working a lower level entry job in a factory. It sucks.
Yeah.
There's not much reward, and early on, it's not much money. It was, later when I worked in a factory and ran my own machine, stuff like that. But you watch them rotate through, and then you watch younger employees get into this industry because they think, oh, it's cannabis, and there is a nice I can be high at work and as long as you're functioning thing that wasn't in any other industry I've ever worked in general. But they think it's going to be something that it's not, and really what I always joke is you're not really in the industry, you're in corporate world, because most of that entry level job that's what that stuff is. It's it's the corporate side world where they don't mind if you're not coming to work, they'll fire your ass instantly. They'll or if you're not performing or and again, if you do, you can move up, but there's only certain moves you can make if from bud tender to manager to mark. It's a harder jump than it would be. And once you're in the industry, this is something. What if I ever wanted to get out of this and not do this anymore? Is that going to be held against me if I'm trying to find a regular job at the university here or something?
I mean, only time's going to tell that, right?
Well, I think it's probably also the person and what they, I mean, I'm proud of what I did. I'm doing
for sure.
So I don't, it's not like I'm ashamed of it or I'm, I want to hide from it anyway. I'm not hiding from it. I created this from nothing. That is something that's hard to do.
Well,
with this podcast, I mean, there's an idea, and then what we call in the writing world, there's the transfer to final product.
Yeah.
That's where the fucking work is, right there. Everybody's got an idea. When you're a writer, everybody's going to tell you your idea. Or when, how many times I've been told you need to do a podcast? It's like, well, who and how much time? I can't do it. It's hard. Then you try to explain. It's hard to do a podcast. It takes a lot of time. Not just you're watching an hour to whatever.
Right.
That hour is taking 3 days to put together and produce if you're doing, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah, I don't get too flashy, but I mean, I wanted to start a podcast because I wanted to learn the editing tools, you know what I mean? And and Dave and I talk about cannabis, and Dave has his own show regardless. And, why not just record it? Because it's something we're both passionate about, and we're not necessarily looking to, make millions of dollars doing it. Although that'd be nice. That'd be the dream. But, we just keep showing up. We're just authentic and we just keep showing up. That's all you can do sometimes.
And again, another spoke on the wheel that's adding information, that's as accurate as you can be. That's all you can ask. So,
well, we usually have good sources. I'd say 80% of what we use is IlNewsJoint. So, I'd like to think our sources are pretty accurate there.
I fucked up. I mean, I've had a couple. In the 5 years, I've had one real retraction. In the 25 years of being a journalism, I've had less than 10.
Well, that's fantastic.
That's something I'm actually proud of. Now I've had.
Are you willing to tell us what it is?
The wording underneath a photo that's called the cut line. Those don't get edited as much and read and everything in a newspaper.
Metadata.
It's a bunch of fires in the pasture fires in the fields. I spelled it pastor, like the clergy.
Yeah.
There was I can't remember what the word is. Pastors on fire. And it got through. And then I wrote in Shelbyville, Illinois, they have the Shelbyville Dam, and I wrote the wrong word for dam, and it got put into anyway. So I
awesome.
things that could have been on the Jay Leno where they would do the headlines and stuff, or some version of that. But overall,
it's big news in Shelbyville too. That's big news in Shelbyville too. Right. That's huge news.
What you have to do is, if you are wrong, correct it.
Yeah, you just correct it. You just say, "Oops, I was wrong." You just take responsibility. My bad. I'll try and do better in the future.
One of the things that I was just joking last week was one answer nobody doesn't like from me mostly. I don't know. When I say I don't know, it's and I don't know why that saying I don't know is so shocking to them. Other than that, everybody has to have an opinion now or something, I guess. But there's just certain shit.
Yeah, but I'd rather hear.
You're asking me to predict political stuff. That's, first of all, nobody knows that shit.
Right.
Nobody knew what's going to happen in this last session when they come down and have the big fight and it's over and everybody leaves and goes home and nothing happens. That wasn't on the bingo card I had. But, there was other things I thought might happen, but none of those happened.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'd rather hear your facts than your predictions. I'd rather hear at least and it doesn't have to be fact in the sense that, like, this is the big thing. I think for a lot of us, we've seen a lot of things happen on repeat, so we can call it a fact to us, right? But then the moment it gets disproven as a fact because you've seen it a different way, it's okay for you to have been wrong. You don't even have to apologize for it as much as you have to accept the idea that there is new information out there, and how you handle that can be completely the defining factor in, one, your character, but two, how this thing progresses to begin with, right? And if you're and I think, I don't know, I just I wish more people would consume this damn plant, because it's a lot easier to not have to debate so much. It's a lot more advantageous for some conversations and some ability to progress, right? If you've ever heard me say it before, Jason, we have presidential debates, not presidential conversations, man. We just need to have some conversations. Start a joint and pass it around. Start talking.
There are more users, or people who are trying it. Especially edibles. Edibles are an in to people who don't like the idea of smoking raw cannabis. That to some people that's not something they would partake in necessarily, but to eat an edible or a drink is really nothing. They'll try that.
Yeah.
Most people, and I always say there's only been like one or two people in the 5 years or 5+ that have like just been totally negative on what we do. Like, oh, I don't like cannabis, it's bad for people. And I'm like, well, I'm 51. I feel
yeah, I feel great.
I'm somebody who has chronic pain and dealing with a bunch of other stuff. I'm pretty healthy compared to, other people my age in general. So the pushback has really not been, when I first started, I thought maybe I'll have, people bitch at me, and I never really had people go at me. And I thought maybe in the rural communities, but actually they're as good or better than, farmers love their weed. That's for sure. The way, growing up, I always joke when I go back home and a farmer says, "Hey, get in my car," and it's harvest season. You get in the truck, and wherever they're taking you is probably something they're growing somewhere. So,
I mean, Hank Williams used to sing about smoking weed. I don't know what, Charlie Daniels used to sing about smoking weed. all them old farmers listening to old country music.
Well, down there,
Talking about token, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, I don't know. They think it's all rural, but that's just having a good time. That's a Saturday night.
half the people in the dispensaries here and around the rural areas will be in a car.
Yeah, for sure.
So
heck yeah.
Again, it's that's what's so fascinating and wonderful about the plant is it just has so many applications to so many different people and so many. So on my mom's side of the family has this weird muscle cramping, aching soreness that other people don't have. It's for some reason it's me, and then every female or woman in that side of the family. So my sister, I'm like telling her, this is what I take, this is what I do, but it's a little different. You have to, when we went legal, that was when I was like, oh, I can really figure out what I want in an edible. So for 4 months, I just combination of edibles every night to see what I like, what ratio, where there's certain brands that have different distillate. I like, like the rosin gummies are the best for me. I don't usually promote a brand or anything, but I think Kana's belts are.
Oh, way to promote. No, I'm with it. Kana does fire
Those
stuff.
things are, I think, probably the best medical gummy right now on the.
Love those things. Those belts are so good.
Yep, somebody who has some chronic pain, those things are pretty sweet.
And they taste good too.
Yeah,
they really taste good.
Yeah, I'm all about effects. I mean, even what I grow, I effects first, and then flavor, and then really. It's almost trimming. If it's an easy to trim plant or buds, that puts it higher on the list for me to grow because I have carpal tunnel and I don't like it, and I'm shitty at it, and I don't. And who wants to be in trim jail for 4 days? And when I have real work I got to get done, and so.
Yeah, those sativa land races are way easier to trim in some cases, for sure.
Yep, and you have some that are just, it's best if they're stacked and they're just, they're hard to get the. I do a lot of, to be honest, I do a lot of hand.
Yeah.
Like reverse peel. I don't know what.
That's a hang dry, throw them off. Yeah.
Well, I got the. I think we talked about this, but I have the Canatrol.
Oh yeah, no, actually you did.
I do pretty light trim as much as I can without getting too wore out before I put it in, and then. But I've got 2 grow bags right here that's untrimmed. I just like every time. But again, I can do that now with. I wouldn't have that option kind of before. I mean, I could put it in jars always, but. I kept stirring up the dry. I just didn't have the controlled environment that I needed, and as I'm sure that. Jesus, you do 5 months and you fuck it up in 4 or 5 days or 2 weeks or whatever you do to dry it wrong.
4 or 5 times. I did it 4 or 5 times. Yeah, for sure. You never know. It's the worst.
Because I don't have the controlled environment. So it's really the best time I ever had it was when it was nice. It was right around 60 degrees. Really, it's a little cooler. So it's in the house and I blocked off. The environment was good. And I was like, oh, that is what I needed. But now that I can slam it in that thing for 4 days. And then what I really like is I don't have to be in trim. I can be in trim gel when I want to be.
Right.
Leave it in there for 4 more days or whatever, as long as you want, really, or whatever. Yep. So it allows me more freedom, and you can rotate faster.
Yeah.
Which is something I didn't have space or, plus I still follow the fucking 5 plant things. I'm doing everything for the Grow Journal and shit. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, hey, I got to get wrapping up. Before we let you go, do you want to tell people how they can get a hold of you? Do they want to follow you on Instagram or tweet at you or come to your website, IlNewsJoint.com?
IlNewsJoint.com is what we do. That's really the source that we start with, and we blast everything out from there. Yep. We are on Instagram at IlNewsJoint. And
great names.
On Facebook. With LinkedIn and whatever else. But really the website's where everything starts.
Yeah. IlNewsJoint. It's the first thing I go to every Monday morning when I start looking for content for Dave and I to talk about. It's the first stop.
I've actually been further behind this last few.
Oh, I know.
months and a little bit than I've ever had.
I'm
Well,
aware.
what happens is it's fine when it's a dull area, but then once the events and you're getting close to that event, that just
Mhm.
ramps up the twice. It's like doing 2 jobs at once.
Yeah, no, I know. I understand. Yeah, a lot of stuff comes out, Tuesday morning or Monday afternoon after I've already looked.
Well, you can
But
look at my post. They're usually at 4 or 5 in the morning.
no, I know, but
It's
I,
Instagram stuff.
I, it doesn't matter to me. It's like I say, it's like the only website talking about medical Illinois cannabis, since basically the beginning, and we appreciate all the work that you do.
Thanks for having me on and letting me come here and promote
Absolutely.
the scholarship. It's actually important to me. So
Yeah, and then again, it's May 17th from 11 to 8 at Emerald Dispensary and Lounge in Fox Lake. Is that right? Oh,
yeah,
Island Lake. I'm
Island
sorry.
Lake.
Island Lake. So yeah, please check it out. And all the other information is on IlNewsJoint.com for that.
Yeah, and I'll be putting out another preview here to announce the new, all the brands and all the people who are sponsoring and being part of the tournament. So you can, if you want to be a sponsor, we promote the shit out of everybody who's trying to support this. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, hey,
thank you again.
yeah, we love you all. Smoke weed every day. Peace.
Thanks, appreciate you, brother.
Yo, ding dong, we're done here. Time to go.